remember driving around as a sophomore and a junior in high school listening to your radio program in the morning. I wasn't there when you gave the speech at the Lincoln Memorial, is that right? But I saw it. I remember saw it being simulcasted. Wow. And you said some very, I think, prophetic things there.
I know it. I have been looking for the next George Washington. I can't find him. He may be 8 years old, but this is the moment.
And now 18-year-old Charlie Kirk is saying enough is enough.
This is Charlie Kirk reporting from Marquette University.
I like ideas. I don't like politicians. I don't like parties. I like principle.
Do not go quietly when truth is on the line.
I mean, democratic socialism, the people's it's socialism, which inherently means the following. It is immoral, it is evil, it is impractical when put in practice.
Do not surrender to the shadows.
But I'm here for the silent majority that is silent no longer, to give them the courage, confidence, and conviction to fight on campuses.
Even when, and especially if, you think the battle can no longer be won.
We're not going to allow the ruling class elites, the radical left, to continue to destroy this country from within. And we are a movement here that is growing by leaps and bounds.
Charlie Kirk lived that mandate.
And I believe that marriage is a beautiful thing. And I believe that having children is a moral good for society.
Biggest blessing.
Oh, without a doubt.
I don't think you know the impact. You say, oh, Glenn, you made an impact on my life. Do you realize the impact you're having on the country? Remember when I did the thing in Washington, D.C. and Restoring Honor?
I do.
And I said, somewhere in this crowd, maybe he's 7, maybe he's 15, somewhere in this crowd is the next George Washington.
And 25 years from now, he will come not to this stair, but to those stairs.
We want to overemphasize grace when in reality Christ loves us too much to have us continue to live in sin. He wants us to try to elevate our actions to glorify God in all that we do.
And he can proclaim, I have a new dream.
I just went to church for the first time in several years.
Today we went to church for the first time in a really long time.
I've never ever opened a Bible before, and something was calling me to my husband's Bible.
Here's the line for the second service, and there's never a line.
Jesus of Nazareth. And the resurrection is the pinpoint of my belief that Jesus did rise from the grave so that we may live.
The light is dimming, yes, but it always does before the dawn.
Hello, my name is Glenbeck, and I am a friend of Charlie Kirk's. You may not know who I am, but one thing I am known for is my emotions, and I think we're going to need a tarp today. I knew this was going to be difficult. But to sit in the studio right next to his chair is more difficult than I imagined. I want to talk to you a little bit about the future, but I want to talk to you a little bit about my friend as well. I knew Charlie when he was young. I first met him, I think he was 17 years old. He was amazing. He was so well read, so smart, so clear. I thought, this is an amazing man. I remember the first time I met Ben Shapiro, I think he was 13 years old. I interviewed him the first time. He was sitting on his family's washing machine doing an interview with me. And he said he was on a phone that used to have, it was a hard line, so it had the phone wire that he had to pull it all the way around, and he couldn't keep his sister quiet. So he went in and closed it on the phone wire and sat on the washing machine. Stop it. I'm going to be on the Glen Beck Show. And he was impressive. But there was something special about Charlie Kirk. I want to share a story. That I've never shared before, and I so regret that we ran out of time. It's a story that I had hoped to tell Charlie myself in the next couple of months. When I first met Charlie, and this is the kind of guy he was so gracious. I first met him, he was young. And I said, so what do you want to do? What is it you want? What do you want to do? So gracious, he said, I want to be you. I want to do what you do. Let me translate. I want to be Rush Limbaugh. He didn't want to be me. He wanted to be Rush Limbaugh. He wanted to be one of the, as Rush said, radio's greatest of all time. And I remember thinking, well, kid, maybe someday, because I think you have it. I brought something with me today that I thought was appropriate while I did the show, that I would sit in front of Charlie's microphone. It was given to me after the death of Rush Limbaugh by his wife. It is Rush's golden microphone. I think it's appropriate that it sits in front of Charlie's microphone. What I would have said to Charlie was, you were thinking too small. I want to be Rush Limbaugh someday. I'm a broadcaster. Rush was a broadcaster. But Charlie was a broadcaster and a narrowcaster. Charlie was a pastor and a priest. And listening to the way he could argue and think differently, he was a rabbi as well, and one of the best. He was a political organizer. He was a political think tank himself. He was a compassionate friend. He surpassed Rush Limbaugh by miles. We'll continue in a minute. Andrew Kolvet is with us. You were here a week ago. We're a week away, and what? Same time.
Yeah, we're probably about 2 hours or so out from, the exact time of being a week.
How are you doing? How's everybody at Turning Point doing?
Well, after you made everybody bawl their eyes out in your first segment, your open, Glen, and I have to say thank you for that. I can't even believe I'm seated so close to Rush's golden EIB microphone.
I know, it's crazy.
And Charlie and I can't say how many times we said the golden EIB microphone.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. We were all crying out in the control room, and so I am right now in this moment very emotional. And I know that you watched his story grow and that tribute about the next George Washington and how Charlie was so aware of that speech you gave, and he wasn't there in person, but he watched it somewhere else live, and I'm right now I don't have many words because of how moving that was, Glenn.
I said the other day, and I don't mean this. I mean, I'm not saying this to self-aggrandize at all, but I looked at him almost like a professional son. You know what I mean? I looked at him, and because I watched him from a distance, and I saw him young, and I saw his desires and how he built and everything that he did. And as I was thinking about that, as I packed that microphone up yesterday, I was thinking about him, and I thought, Charlie would have been president.
Yeah.
Charlie would have been president. Rush wasn't president. Rush didn't have a desire to be president. And I don't know if Rush would have made a good... I'd make a horrible president. I don't know. Rush would have been a better president than me. Charlie could have been a great president. He surpassed all of us. I don't know if there's another person in history on our side, at least in the last 150 years, that was like Charlie. To replace Charlie, you need maybe 6 people at the top of their craft to cover everything that he has done.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I was with Charlie and people would beg him, you have to run for president, you have to run for president. And Charlie would always, say, no, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. And I will say, Charlie was, the existence of J.D. Vance gave Charlie a lot of emotional freedom to say that next man up is JD. Our job is to support JD.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't necessarily be loud and proud about that on this show because we understand there's dynamics.
Yeah.
But, Charlie was in so many ways being honed and sharpened, and
he was.
Yeah, for such a job. And
Look at the difference in him in 10 years.
Yeah.
15 years. Look at the difference in him.
Can you imagine if he had 10 more years
10 more
keep
years?
Sharpening?
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, and people need to understand that. Yes, Charlie was a brilliant communicator. Yes, he was an autodidact who kept studying the classics and political and philosophy and theology and all of these things. And he was deeply, deeply sincere in his faith. But he was also so skilled at the quiet things, the behind-the-scenes things. And he would honor people. He was trusted. If you got into a heated discussion in private with Charlie, nobody would ever hear about that. If anything happened, because his goal was to keep people together. He understood that there are so many forces in our world and our politics that are ripping everybody apart. And I said this yesterday, but it bears repeating. He just a few weeks before his death, he sent me this hierarchy of what the Greeks considered to be the highest virtues and the highest callings. And he said to me, Andrew, we are not the actors and the entertainers that are at the bottom. That's how the Greeks put it. He said, we need to strive to be statesmen and philosophers up at the top and theologians. And he said, this is what we're trying to be. Not that. Anybody could do that. Not everybody can do that. And God, he knew that God had put him in a position that he could keep people together. And so, there would be times where everybody wanted us to go all in on this story or go all in on that. And Charlie saw 3 steps ahead all the time. He was always thinking long-term, what will that do to the movement? And so he would craft his messaging and his strategy and, who we invited to what, around how do you manage this current moment so that everybody is still a part of this thing.
I can't thank you enough for inviting us to be here. We are
enough for coming.
No, I mean, it is an honor. I called Stu yesterday and I said, Stu, you should come with me. And he said, this is history in the making. I mean, it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, well, really you honor us, and you're a beautiful tribute and open to him. And I know we're not done yet, but
no,
I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. God bless. And God bless everybody at TPUSA. Want to get involved? Go to tpusa.com.
More in just a minute. First, let me tell you about Relief Factor. Most of us don't realize how much pain we're in until something changes. Maybe you walk up a flight of stairs without grabbing the rail. Maybe you laugh, really laugh without wincing. Maybe you can pick up a paintbrush again. That's what Relief Factor did for me. The pain in my hand were so bad I couldn't paint anymore. I couldn't write my own letters, and I love to handwrite things. This is something that doctors have designed to target the underlying inflammation that causes so many of our aches and our pains, our back, our neck, our knees, our joints, everything. And it's not about masking the pain. It's about helping your body fight it. And that's the best part. It's natural. It's not a drug. There's no prescription, no fog, just 4 simple ingredients working together to give your body a chance to heal. For tens of thousands of people, including me, that has been life-changing. So if you've been living with pain, just accepting it, managing it, enduring it, you don't have to stay there. You don't have to just live with it. Give Relief Factor a try with their 3-week quick starts, $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Try it and see how it can help you turn back the clock on pain. Visit relieffactor.com or call 800-4-RELIEF. That's 800-4-RELIEF.
Let me describe the scene. I got here this morning about 4:30 a.m. I do a national radio program, starts at 9 a.m. Eastern time, so by 6 we were broadcasting. And there wasn't anybody here. Everybody is getting some well-deserved sleep. It looks like, nobody here has slept for a while. And we got here, and there's police that barricade the road right in front, and there are police all around. And it's an enormous tribute that is on the road, sitting in front of TPUSA. People have it reminded me, honestly, of Princess Diana. I hadn't seen the outpouring like this since Elvis died and when Princess Diana died. It's just this amazing outpouring of love. During the show, during my national radio broadcast, my staff walked in and said, "You have to move to another building. And somebody here in front apparently put a package down and then gave a bomb threat. Turned out to be just some, I don't know. But Satan thinks that he still can win, and the more he pushes, the brighter the light is going to get. I want to go to Ryan Mauro. I talked to him earlier today because one of the things that we have to do is we have to stop the funding of all of these things that are on the left that we have honestly now started to find out. I've been exposing this stuff on chalkboards for years and years, almost 2 decades now, and how the George Soroses, et cetera, of the world are funding all of the worst of the worst. And Ryan has done his work and has really come up with some smoking guns, especially on George Soros. Donald Trump can use as RICO charges. And Ryan is here to lay this all out. What did you find, Ryan?
Well, we had some amazing findings according to George Soros's own files from his Open Society foundations. So myself, my colleagues at Capital Research Center, basically went through as many grants of his, as many funding streams as we could find. And here's the smoking guns that we believe that President Trump, if he's informed of it, can use to go after Soros's network of hate in various ways. We traced over $80 million going from the Open Society foundations to at least 54 groups engaged in crime and domestic terrorism on U.S. soil, or that are pro-terrorism, endorsing things like the October 7th attacks, or are associated with foreign terrorist organizations or explicitly pro-terror groups. And this is according to his own file, so it's rock solid. And over all of that amount, over 23 million went to at least 7 groups that are doing things that meet the FBI's definition of domestic terrorism, including rioting and things like that.
Can you be specific, more specific than this?
Absolutely. I'm happy to. So the Center for Third World Organizing, for example, is an organization that has a hub that fused together several really extreme organizations. We found $400,000 going to them. And they openly boast of the fact that they threw down during the uprisings in Minnesota, obviously referring to the rioting, and boasting of how many thousands of people they helped train. A lot of these groups have created what they'll call like a protest guide or an activism toolkit, and it sounds innocuous. Then you open it up and you'll see support for Hamas in it, but then they'll sometimes slyly say, for more information, go to these hyperlinks. And you go to the hyperlinks, and there'll be guides recommending things like property destruction, violence, false IDs, how to obstruct justice, all of these things, and they know darn well what they're doing. They don't put that there by accident. Some of the more careful ones will just direct their readership to anarchist websites with all that material, knowing that they'll see it when it's there. And so, yeah, I mean, it's really stunning. And some of these groups are coalitions. So when I say 54 groups, just one of those might have 300 entities in that one. So it's actually, the real number is actually much higher.
Let me play something from October 2010, where I was talking about the RICO Act and George Soros. Listen to this.
But this is the ABCs of revolution. This is only a copy of it. I only have a copy of it. I don't have the original yet. They talk about urban guerrilla tactics. The instant any area is occupied by revolutionaries, it must be appropriated forthwith according to two incontestable principles: self-defense and free distribution of the goods produced. The best way to avoid isolation is to attack. Thus, one must, with an eye to the internationalist direction, remember, workers of the world unite, create other nuclei for occupations and appropriations, strengthen and protect liaison between revolutionary zones, isolate the enemy and destroy communications, use commando tactics to harass and rear guard and avoid encirclement by splitting up his forces, disorganize the counter-revolution by rendering its principal leaders and the best strategists harmless. Do you have that one? Disorganize the counter-revolution by rendering its principal leaders and the best strategists harmless. How do they do that? Is the left threatening? Is that something that people who are in that position should worry about their lives? Or is that just render them harmless by, well, let's just see if I can come up with a crazy example. Here, some rich dude takes $1 million and does everything they can to smear and discredit. By the way, George, have you ever heard of the RICO statute? Anyway.
RICO. This is 2010, 15 years ago. I was saying George Soros should be grabbed by the RICO Act. Donald Trump looks like he's now willing to go there. And again, we're talking to Ryan Mauro, who says he has the goods on this. How long have you been working on this, Ryan?
Probably about a year.
And what got you started on this?
Well, I think it started when I released a report breaking down the anti-Israel protests that were going on. I saw that was like manufactured. It was like pushing a button. And we identified over 150 pro-terrorism groups organizing those protests. There weren't peaceful groups behind it. And so when that report came out, which is very similar to this one, this is almost somewhat of a sequel, one of the radical entities that's Hamas-friendly had this to say about the research that we released. So the same would be true of the source report that we're about to release at 1 o'clock. It said that these reports we're doing pose an existential threat that could easily mean a quick death for most of the groups by getting their tax-exempt statuses ripped away from them. And so those that survive would suffer mass chaos. So they're saying that we have figured out how to beat them if we just get this into the right hands. And so at 1 o'clock, this is what we're dropping about George Soros as part of our investigation. And that's what I said on your show earlier. The counteroffensive begins today. It begins at 1 o'clock.
You know, it was probably 2010 that George Soros's number 2 guy met with my number 2 guy. And they had lunch in a public place because that's what we requested when they said we want to have lunch. And I was not part of it, but
it was just the second in command, if you will, meeting with each other and sending messages. And this lunch started with, you need to tell your boss, me, is hurting my boss, Soros, and it's going to stop. And my guy said, I don't think it is. If he's getting something wrong, he'd be more than happy to correct it. And he said at the time, your boss needs to understand, the ship has already sailed. It's just pulling out of port right now. And you're either on that ship or you're not. And you want to be on that ship. And he said, my boss is going to say he doesn't want to be on that ship. And at the very end of the conversation, he said, I want you to hear me clearly. This is going to stop. We took that as a very large threat. And that is one of the reasons why I did the Puppet Master show on Fox. I did a 3-day special showing everything about George Soros that we could find at the time. You realize who you're getting into war with, don't you?
I do, and I don't care. I know I'm supposed to do this. And so that ship that he was talking about, we're going to sink it. And all the other big billionaire-funded organizations are out there that are funding this type of filth, that are poisoning American civil society and spreading this type of hate that resulted in what happened a week ago. You're on notice. If you're doing this by mistake, I will volunteer my time to help you vet the organizations that you finance so you don't fund terrorism and hate if you're genuine.
Well,
if you're not genuine and you continue doing it, you're next.
Looking at your research, there's a handful of grants that are nuts for things like children that include ideas of hierarchy, supremacy, colonialism, and to the Alinsky Institute in France, which is in honor of Saul Alinsky, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's exactly right. When you go through the report, you'll see that the organizations that they're funding are so blatantly connected to foreign terrorist organizations, so blatantly extremist. This goes on year after year. So before, when there would be reports about this in drips and drabs, I could kind of understand some people saying, well, out of thousands of grants, maybe some mistakes are made. This is no mistake. We have disproven this. And I keep thinking about how when the Iranian regime allows pro-terrorism entities to fundraise on Iranian soil, what do we call that? We call that state sponsorship of terrorism. In the United States, when American nonprofits in the nonprofit sector allow pro-terror entities to fundraise on American soil, what do we call it? We call it charity. And so that has to come to an end. The IRS code, as we talk about in the report, is being violated. You're not allowed to engage in crime. You're not even allowed to encourage crime. That can't be part of your nonprofit mission. And so these statuses need to be revoked. And just like that one extremist group said, if we go down that path, we don't even have to get into the hate speech argument.
Yeah.
We can beat them. We can beat them rapidly.
Ryan, thank you so much. I really appreciate your conversation with us. Back on the Charlie Kirk Show in a minute. September is National Preparedness Month, and if there were ever a time to get out ahead of this curve, this is it. Whether we're headed into a recession or more of the same unpredictable chaos, being prepared isn't paranoia, it's just common sense, and that's why I would like to recommend Jace Medical. These are the only people that offer anything like this, and this is the hardest thing if you really want to be prepared. It's practical, real-world solutions, and you don't want to be reactive to things. You're going to be too late if you're just reacting to things. With Jay's case, you get 10 emergency medications and antibiotics prescribed by a doctor and shipped right to your door. It's not just a good idea, it's a game plan for when disaster strikes. And for those of us who take daily prescriptions, they also offer Jace Daily, giving you a full year's supply of your chronic meds, so you're not at the mercy of any kind of supply chain or pharmacy shortage or anything like that. During National Preparedness Month, Jace is running a massive sale to make it even easier to afford. Preparedness isn't giving into panic, it's peace of mind. And with Jace, it's actually doable. Go to jace.com and enter the promo code Beck at checkout for a discount on your order. That's promo code Beck at jase.com. We're now filling in for Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to see Erica here for the first time. And No, I mean, that might not be good for her to see me because I'm going to be a soppy mess. I've had
You're
her.
surely going to embarrass yourself.
I am. But my wife is just obsessed. She can't stop watching the kids and everything. And I can't watch it. I'm having a hard time looking over in this corner because Erica did her speech right there last week. Anyway, Paulina Luna is here. Hello, Anna. How are you?
Hi, Glenn.
You were a dear, dear friend of Charlie Kirk's. How are you holding up?
I don't think anyone can ever anticipate something like this happening, but what I can tell you is Charlie would not want us to throw in the towel. And so I know that right now everyone in the country, for good reason, is still kind of grappling at what happened. But what I am happy to see is the overwhelming support, not just in voter registration, but the amount of young people, especially over 30,000 requests for college campuses.
No, don't diminish that. It's now 56,000 chapters that have been requested to be open. Not new members, 56,000 chapters. That's
incredible.
Remarkable.
It is, and I know that in the end, no matter what, Charlie really did win, because even half of that number would make an incredible difference on these college campuses. And just a little bit, I guess, Glenn, of how I initially found Turning Point. This was a little quantum breadcrumb, right? Like everyone, at some point in your life, you're going to see these little kind of God winks that will pop up and let you know that you're on your right path. But I remember being in my finals week when I was getting ready to graduate from college at University of West Florida. And I saw these two girls and they were tabling and they had these pins that said "Big Government Sucks." And I remember going into the library and grabbing this pin. I was like, that's pretty cool. I didn't even think, that later on, fast forward, a year later, that I'd be working with Charlie and at Turning Point. But what I will tell you is that, a lot of people, there needs to be action outside of the legislative and the federal branch. And what we're finding is that what Charlie was fighting, this indoctrination that was taking place on college campuses, these weren't just, liberal professors from the 60s that had been radicalized, right? Like this is actually a foreign government funded operation. And a lot of these left-wing organizations that have been pushing these violent riots, the targeted campaigns, a lot of the people that have associations with these groups that are calling for assassinations of the president, of conservative commentators, and even of, Charlie's family are tied to these organizations. And I guess what I'd like to share today is, so, Glenn, that we were on the show talking about Neville Singham, how he was funding the Party of Socialism and Liberation, Code Pink, a lot of the stuff. Comer signed on a letter to the U.S. Treasury to freeze all of his assets. And I just met with Judge Janine, and he's guilty of a FARA violation. I think the Department of Justice is going to be charging him with that. So,
miracle of miracles.
Charlie.
Miracle of miracles. Yeah, we were just talking about this new George Soros information that Ryan Mauro has just released, or is it 1:00 Eastern yet? And you're going to be able to get George Soros on RICO charges, something that I've been asking for 15 years, and it's happening. I think, there's just no better name to name Charlie's movie than Turning Point. I mean, we are truly at a turning point, and I couldn't be happier.
I'm glad that everyone is doing what needs to be done, because Charlie ultimately was a freedom fighter, and everything that he was doing, the GOP failed to recognize, and he was able to transcend politics, but then also able to share his message. And so, yes, it's been extremely hard. It's been even harder to see some of the commentary coming out of people that I have to walk by every single day up here on the Hill, and not knowing him and then continuing this rhetoric. But what I will tell you is a lot of them know the truth and that he was not what they painted him out to be. And I am happy that he has the team in place that's standing with Turning Point, because I know that this organization is going to continue, not just for voter engagement and for youth engagement, but to really help fight back. And I think that there are a lot of very powerful people now that are listening to what needs to be done. And
Yeah.
this is the change that we needed.
Anna Paulina Luna, thank you so much. You know, the one thing that's come to me in prayer several times is these are not enemies of yours, Glenn. These are not enemies of yours. These are enemies of mine. And he will deal with them. We just have to do the next right thing and stand exactly where he asks us to stand. Anna Paulina Luna, thank you so much. Tyler Bowyer's with us. He is the COO of Turning Point Action. We just played a clip of Charlie and I talking right after the election last time. And I've talked to people who said, what you guys have planned for the midterms and even looking forward to 2028 is awesome. Going to make it look like child's play what happened last time. Are you concerned at all?
You know, Glenn, thank you for that. I mean, obviously this has been a lot to process this whole last week.
Yeah, I bet.
You know, I'm the COO because Charlie's the CEO. So losing, the head of the household here has been tough, I think, for all of us. But the beautiful part about what we've done and we've been doing is we've been putting our pen to paper this entire time, really focused on what the plan is, like you mentioned, focused on 2028 and working our way backwards from that, looking at 2032 and working our way backwards. And when you do it, when you take that process, I mean, that's the way that the left does it. When you take that process, you can actually formulate a plan pretty quickly. And that's what we've done with our Chase the Vote initiative.
You know, the really great thing is Charlie was not a guy, you weren't joining because you were a fan of him. I mean, he was teaching principles.
Yeah.
So the base is principle based.
That's right.
And that's really a healthy thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's at the core of the elections. 2028 in particular is really focused on the grassroots. Our number one culture point that we have at Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action is what we call grassroots humility. If you focus on the grassroots, then you get candidates that the grassroots wants to work for, and then therefore it kind of builds the program for you. And that's really the beauty of Turning Point, and where we felt like we had to step up, really coming out of the 2022 election, when we realized that everybody was not being honest at what I call the Republican establishment, the core at the I
like to call them the evil empire,
the National Republican apparatus, the evil empire, whatever you want to call them, but the apparatus itself was kind of lying to people and saying, hey, we've got this handle, we can do this, we can do this, red wave, and they didn't show up with anybody. And so we knew, and this is the beauty of Charlie and what we had done, was we had seen the culmination of how many people kind of became disciples at Turning Point. And we knew that we could take that, and we had to take that talent and convert it into action. And so that's what really built the C4 plan heading into 2024.
You know, it's really interesting thinking about the coverage leading up to the election. Turning Point, I think, was really put on the line by the coverage. And I think this was intentional. There was a big belief that if Trump lost, if this didn't turn out the right way, there was someone to point blame at, and it was you and Charlie. It was Turning Point. That was the big setup beforehand. Oh, well, you're going to put Charlie Kirk in ahead of your turnout operation? I mean, was there a moment where you were like, this is really a moment that's going to make or break not only the country, but also this organization?
The beautiful part about being right next to Charlie Kirk for as many years as I've been is that it's a pressure cooker, unlike anything else. Even with the small stuff in the early days, is that we live for this pressure. I mean, that's at the end of the day, you talk about Super Bowls, that's what you have to, that's what you want. You want the coverage. You want to invite in all of that. So I think the real beauty in this story from this last election cycle, and I'm so glad everything worked out the way it did, not knowing at the time that it was going to be the last time that we would, run a race together, right? Like do the work, because that wasn't the plan. Right. That was never the anticipated outcome here. But looking back, it's been really hard thinking about all this last week. I value that, and those individual experiences where it was tough, where people did put all that pressure on us. I wouldn't have it any other way. I really would not have it any other way at all, because because had it not been positioned that way, I don't know if the celebration of of what we were able to accomplish for this last election would feel the same. And what that would lead into for this next election cycle in the future, now what the legacy of Charlie Kirk will be. And so that's what we have to live up to. That's what we have to do.
We are your friends because we're your friends, but we also believe in your mission, and we know what you guys are doing. We are here for you at any time, anything you need.
Thank you very much, Glenn. I appreciate that.
Thank
We
you.
love
Means
you.
a lot.
And we love everybody at Turning Point. If you want to get involved, go to turningpointusa.com.
Back with more of my appearance with the Charlie Kirk program in just a minute. First, I want to talk to you about preborn. Every life begins with a sound. It's not words. It's not crying. It's a heartbeat, a tiny, unmistakable rhythm that tells you someone is there. It's life. That's why preborn exists. They offer free ultrasounds to women who are facing unplanned pregnancies. Often they're scared, they're pressured, they're unable to see their way forward. Everybody is pressuring this mom. But when she hears the heartbeat, everything changes. More often than not, she'll choose life. And preborn pairs that moment with real, tangible help, counseling, maternity support, long-term resources for up to 2 years. They stand by these women after they choose life. It's not politics, it's compassion, and it works. Your gift to preborn doesn't just fund equipment or services. It creates a moment where life wins, where truth is heard, where a mother's heart changes because she heard her baby's first wordless word, the sound of life, the heartbeat. That's what's happening every day, and it's why your monthly support is so crucial. Just $28 a month can save a life every single month, restoring a precious gift from God. Dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, keyword baby, or go to preborn.com/Glen. That's preborn.com/Glen. Let's rescue a generation, one heartbeat at a time. Sponsored by Preborn.
Charlie and I, on one day, maybe 2018 or 2019, I can't remember. He said, "What's coming next?" And we were on this balcony in Miami, and it was just the two of us, and we had a really amazing conversation about what our responsibilities were and what we had to look out for. And he said, "What is coming next?" And I said, "Charlie, assassinations." And he said, "How do you see that?" And I said, "Well, Donald Trump is probably the biggest target, but I don't know. I mean, last time in the 60s, it was Malcolm X, it was RFK, and it was MLK. And there were three of them. And with an exception of RFK, they were people that were, in the arena, if you will. And so Charlie and I talked about, what do we do if that starts happening? And that's why I am so happy to see the way people that knew Charlie, loved Charlie, worked with Charlie, were part of tpusa, were just fans of Charlie. I think everybody felt like they knew him because he was so personal, but the way everybody is reacting. I wanted to play something that I have not even heard yet myself. This is something that was written by David Osmond because I knew these times were coming, and probably 2018 is when this song was first written for these days, and here we are. And last night, my daughter, Cheyenne, who was about 10 feet away from the tent in Utah last week, thank God she turned her head and turned around because she was hearing people screaming at Charlie, and she thought, what are these idiots saying? And she turned around, and that's when she said she heard what she thought was a firecracker. And by the time she turned back to look at Charlie, she was pushed to the ground, so she didn't, thank God, see it firsthand. Last night, she and David Osmond went into the studio to record this in honor of Charlie Kirk.
I know we don't see everything in the same way.
But I know we won't be really free if we don't stay
united, 'cause divided we will fall for anything, it's true. So I have decided
I will stand for you, and I will
make a stand. I will raise my voice, I will hold your hand, 'cause we are one. I will beat my drum, I have made my choice. We will overcome, 'cause we are one.
Some say there's no way your way will ever be okay.
They say the best days are behind, so wide, and you will find the times when the best men defend every friend, neighbor, countryman. But now there's nowhere where you can speak your mind. But I will make a stand. I will raise my voice, I will hold your hand, 'cause we are one. I will beat my drum, I have made my choice. We will overcome, 'cause we are one. Times may change, but truth remains.
We won't be silenced, won't be chained,
'cause injustice anywhere threatens justice everywhere. I will make a stand, I will raise my voice, I will hold your hand, 'cause we are